Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest on Tory sleaze scandals, as Rishi Sunak gives the impression he's not remotely serious about tackling sleaze and corruption within his party. Tory MPs would do well to remember that sleaze is one of the issues that brought down John Major's government. And their leader right now is putting up less of a fight than Major did, and somehow expecting better results. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in building up Labour's policies ahead of the next election, Keir Starmer has frequently pushed some as a way of restoring trust in politics. He was at it again at the start of the week when presenting Gordon Brown's constitutional reforms paper, all about restoring trust in politics, he said. And politics is an inherently untrustworthy part of our lives due to a number of reasons. You know, the public don't respond well to the unvarnished truth. People say, oh, politicians should tell the truth. Yeah, people should vote for the truth then. They don't. People respond far more positively to a comforting lie than to the horrifying truth. Much easier to sleep at night when you listen to the politician that tells you, oh, we don't actually have a problem with racism in the country, it's just a load of people making a fuss, than the one that tells us how devastating it is for people's lives and what changes we need to make to counter it. Oh, change is scary. Can we just be told things are actually fine? You're right, you are, says the politician who ends up winning the election. Our media also adds a dishonest angle to politics as well. Right now, the right-wing media are presenting two particularly massive lies to the public about the strikes and about the coal mine now opening up. They tell us the strikes are a result of workers not understanding that the government simply can't afford to meet their demands and that it's inflicting unnecessary pain on the rest of us. Never mind the government can easily afford it, and that none of these media outlets are putting the following to the public. If the government is saying that an inflation-linked pay increase would somehow make inflation higher, how come it's fine for inflation-linked income increases for pensioners? How come it's fine for the wealthy to have above inflation income increases? As for the coal, they're claiming it'll be used to make British steel and reduce reliance on imports. Well, we need the coal anyway. We use it for steel. We need the steel. Isn't it better to dig it up ourselves than to import it? No. It's just a climate-damaging way of allowing another group of wealthy investors to make money at our expense. British steel manufacturers, including British Steel themselves, have said the coal is useless. So you need pure carbon for steel making. The stuff in Cumbria's got too much sulphur. No good. It'll be exported. But all of these things were true 10 years ago as well. But trust in politics is lower now than it has been in my lifetime. So you could certainly argue that a political party promising to restore trust will appeal to some voters. You know, Starmer's pitch is to decentralise power, bring more decisions into political authorities closer to home, where people can feel a closer connection. What is Sunak's pitch? Well, Sunak has a particular problem with trust in his party. After the Owen Paterson scandal, a review was held into measures needed to prevent the sort of corrupt lobbying, which kicked the whole thing off. Range of recommendations has resulted from that review, as you would expect, but the government have indicated they're probably not going to adopt two of them. Now, immediately. If you're looking at this as a voter who wants to look to the government to restore trust, the government orders a review into some form of corruption. Great, nice one. They're taking action in order to restore public trust. Great, thank you. But then refuses to implement the recommendations in full. Right, huh? Why would you do that? Are you really doing everything you can to restore trust? So what is Sunak not all that keen to implement? Well, the first is a requirement for ministers to declare all hospitality received above a value of £300 within 28 days. Now, MPs have to do this. This isn't a new rule or anything. It's just that ministers don't have to, which is odd when you think about it, because gifting anything to a politician could be potentially corrupt. It could be an attempt by whomever is gifting the thing of value to get something in return. It's not always the case, but we know a lot of it goes on. And who is most at risk of corruptly acting against the national interest by accepting gifts? A backbench MP or a minister of the Crown? Surely the minister has more power to do more favours to the potentially corrupt lobbyist. So why is there less oversight over gifts received for that more powerful minister than the ordinary backbencher? I mean, the backbencher can put in a word in for a lobbyist, or they can arrange contacts, maybe. But it is the minister who can award contracts or directly influence policy. It's also easier for a minister to declare these gifts of hospitality within the time frame. Like an MP has got staff, you know, they've got expenses to pay for staff to manage their admin. But a minister's also got publicly funded civil service officials. Should be simplicity itself to get the declarations very quickly. The MP doesn't even have to do anything. The minister, they just say, oh, it's in their diary that they're accepting this hospitality anyway. Just say, make sure it's declared, please. Fill the forms in. Right. So in refusing to adopt this recommendation, something that non-ministerial MPs are expected to do anyway, how can it look like anything other than the government wants to allow ministers to conceal valuable free gifts from lobbyists? Sunak's even younger than I am, so I don't know how aware he was in the mid-90s. He would have been about. I don't know how politically aware he was. But the final years of the last Tory government underwent a similar crisis of corruption. Tory sleaze was the refrain with various scandals, including the cash for question scandal. John Major initially tried to keep a lid on it, as you would, with his support for dodgy cabinet colleague David Mellor. That went very badly. But when he saw the reputational damage to his party, he at least tried to fight back. He ordered a commission into standards in public life, just as the Tories did in the wake of the Owen Paterson scandal. The difference was that Major accepted and implemented the recommendations. This resulted in what are called the Nolan principles. It says that holders of public office must maintain the following standards: selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. All values which seem to be completely absent from our current government. Anyone who could be objectively shown to have failed in any of these was expected to resign, and indeed tends to have this has tended to happen since. Now, we can find clear examples of breaches of these principles, and I mean clear, objective breaches from every single member of the cabinet, and all we get is excuses instead. They don't even try and deny it, because sometimes it's so clear. They don't even attempt to deny it. They just claim that it's some greater good. And it's not even like Sunak doesn't think trust in politics is a particular issue for him. Because I could understand this. If, let's say, I imagined Sunak believed that politics was seen as corrupt anyway, that there wasn't anything that he especially had to do about it. Like Boris Johnson took a different line. His approach wasn't to try and restore trust. It was to try and make out that everyone else was just as bad. He made no attempt to hide his own party's corruption or his own personal corruption. He just used the media to paint others as being no better. Oh, yeah, I'm as corrupt as they come. But, you know, the rest of them are no better than I am. But Sunak did seem to show an understanding that this isn't good enough, that this doesn't work. His initial speeches on first becoming Prime Minister were all about the issue of trust and integrity. Why even mention them if he didn't think they were important issues for his target voters? I know I've said I don't think Sunak is a very good politician. I mean, there's a lot of that going on about at the moment. But he must surely have crafted his speech to target what he thinks are the key issues for voters. And when you look at both the Tory and Labour leaders, both pushing the idea of restoring trust in politics, it's a theme for both of them. It'd be a hell of a coincidence if it weren't the case that both of their internal polling wasn't showing this as a big issue for target voters. Then they're not likely to be both doing it just independently. This is because their polling shows that it is an issue. So why is Sunak allowing yet another easy line of attack on his government? Even if having this rule in place for the last few years would have turned up no end of dodgy dealings, why not bring it in now anyway? Just make ministers aware that they'll have to do this. Just be a bit careful. There's going to be this rule in place now. It would allow him to show that he's serious about restoring trust because he'd be accepting all the recommendations of the review that his own party commissioned. Voters could look at that and say, well, yeah, there's clearly a lot of dodgy characters there, but Sunak's trying to sort it out. Give the lad time. But even just one recommendation not being implemented, and that doesn't happen because he's trying to avoid it. But here, you know, there's two. The other one was about having more robust descriptions for the principles, the Nolan principles, to avoid discriminatory attitudes, I gather. What? Said Sunak. I can't possibly assemble a government of non-discriminatory ministers from my party. Sod that. So the end result is that Sunak, the Prime Minister who wanted to restore trust, who already had to accept the resignation of one cabinet minister for bullying and may well be losing his deputy to the same issue, is now fighting to avoid having his own ministers adopt the same standards as the lowliest backbench MP. Because that's what this will show. You think about this. Never mind just Tory backbench MPs. Imagine a lone independent MP, no party affiliation. I don't just mean someone who's had the whip withdrawn, but no party affiliation. They're there sat in the corner on the far side of the opposition benches. They have the least influence on government policy or public contract award of any member of parliament. They're like the least powerful member of parliament. They are held to a higher standard than an actual government minister who has tens of billions of pounds to spend of public money and who can change the law of the land. And Sunak is arguing for that to remain the case. I do not think this is a good move for Sunak. And I'm not even talking morally, just strategically. This seems dumb. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.